With Big Cat Weekend just days away, that could mean another Alabama flip is happening this weekend.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. That is the Auburn message board legend, the Charlie 5, also a host of the Top Button podcast. We'll discuss several names to watch this weekend because there are a ton of them, as well as Blake Woodby. Is it finally time for him to pop? We've been talking about him for weeks, feels like months. But first things first, could we see another Big Cat Weekend Bama flip to the Auburn Tigers? Of course, it was a monumental weekend a year ago when Perry Thompson flipped away from the Crimson Tide to Auburn. They threw Hugh Freeze in the pool. It was great. Derek Smith seems to be a guy who's kind of on flip watch, who's currently committed to Alabama, but a lot of people think Auburn has a real shot to flip him.
I say we make this a theme every year. Let's just go ahead and flip a Bama commit on Big Cat Weekend every single year. Why not? Why not? Become a national holiday. Derek Smith, somebody that I honestly was shocked he committed to Alabama in the first place when he did, because Auburn had made him a huge priority. And I think Alabama really wanted to make a splash early. If you remember, it happened shortly after the hire of Kalen DeBoer and kind of getting that whole thing going. But Auburn stayed on him, man. Auburn stayed on him. They're open to him playing any position. I think they'd love him to play wide receiver, but he's so good. I think you just get him here. You just get him here and figure it out. Like, hey, you just get in that. You just get in the locker room, and we'll give you a shot everywhere, and we'll see what happens. You know,
that's what all the top programs do. It's like, you're good, you're elite. Don't know at what, but we'll figure it out when you get here. And that's what Auburn needs to do at several different positions. To me, you get all of the Derek Smiths that you possibly can. Do you think this sends a message? Like you said, I know you were joking a second ago, let's do this every Big Cat Weekend, but you're kind of not joking. I mean, that's the purpose of having an off-season weekend event like this, Charlie 5.
What's funny is it just so happened that it ended up this way. I don't really think it's like a purpose, like it's on purpose that they're trying to flip Alabama commits on these days. I think it just so happened these are the top targets that they're going for at those positions. If you remember, Cam Coleman committed on July 4th to Texas A&M, so that made Perry your number one target at wide receiver, and he was at the time was your highest rated commit. I think if you flip Derek Smith at this point in time, he'd be your highest rated commit. So I don't necessarily think you're trying to do this or trying to make this a thing, but Tom Loy, one of the not rivals, 247 national analysts, I've joked he's become like the greatest Auburn insider ever out of nowhere. Dude from Indiana, all of a sudden just knows everything about Auburn. And he said, hey, you got to keep your head on a swivel on this Derek Smith thing. He's coming to Big Cat Weekend. Auburn's making a push. It would be fun. It would be fun to flip. It's always fun to flip an Alabama commit, but it's such a position. You want to back up last year's wide receiver class. And I think he's going to, even though he'll be labeled as an athlete, I think they want to go ahead. They want to try to start him off. They'd love for him to play wide receiver because he's very, very dynamic.
And he's not the only Alabama wide receiver commit that's going to be in Auburn this weekend. Caleb Cunningham, the Mississippi standout. Several have reported that he is expecting to be at Big Cat Weekend this weekend. I mean, it was kind of dramatic when he picked Alabama, and it kind of felt like this, crushing loss, but it does seem like Auburn's still in it for him.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Look, commitments these days are placeholders. It's not doesn't seem to be as much loyalty a lot of times to commitments. It's sort of, hey, I want to lock in my spot here. I may get a little bonus for committing, but I'm gonna go ahead and lock my spot in here, and then I'm gonna shop around. And if I find something better, I'll jump. If not, I'm good. And Caleb Cunningham, I'm not saying that's what kind of person he is. He may really love Alabama. He seems to get kind of hyped up whenever he goes on a visit. Yeah. And he caught Alabama at the right time, and they kind of knocked it out of the park. One thing that's interesting, talking about Big Cat Weekend in Alabama, isn't it pretty interesting that Alabama's put their event on Sunday instead of just saying, hey, we're going to go toe-to-toe with you. Let's go toe-to-toe with you on Saturday and just see who may the best man win. It kind of seems like they've sort of relented. They didn't want to try to go up against Big Cat Weekend on the Saturday, so their event's going to be on a Sunday. I think that's interesting because Caleb, I think, is going to go to both. So this affords us the opportunity to get him here, get him around all the other big dogs. They're going to be around other 5-stars in both classes, 2025 and 2026. That's one I wouldn't give up on. That's another one I wouldn't give up on.
Well, it does make it where he can't go to Ole Miss's because there were reports out there that he was going to go to Ole Miss's big weekend.
Right.
And I guess that's not happening.
Yeah. Juiced up weekend or whatever they call it. I don't know. It's a really weird name.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. If you're not a transfer portal player, they don't care about you over in Oxford. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Yeah, so Caleb Cunningham, obviously a big one. Where are you with Jared Smith, the edge from Thompson? He's kind of been crystal balled at different points of time. The Auburn, the 4-star edge. I mean, is he on pop watch this weekend?
I think he's actually put out a date. I think I think his date is August 3rd. But you never can. I mean, it seems like every single day a new prediction rolls in. So there's not. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to get caught up in the emotion of it and want to, go ahead and, jump on board this weekend. But I think he's on August 3rd. And look, I don't necessarily like trying to schedule a whole bunch of commitments on one day or like 2 days because these kids want to have their like moment in the sun. So like I get him wanting to kind of wait until sort of the excitement from Big Cat Weekends die down and then he can go ahead and jump in the spotlight. But I love this kid. Hey, anytime you can get a 6'6", 240, 250 in-state 4-star, 5-star, depending on which service you're talking to, edge rusher that could play end from Thompson, you're happy about it.
Yeah, he's almost worth more because he goes to Thompson, and just establishing that pipeline is so crucial. We've been begging for that for a decade. It's
just like all of a sudden,
Thompson players are showing up on campus. It's great.
All of a sudden, Thompson's just an Auburn pipeline. You could add two. You stand probably a better than 90% chance of landing 2 guys from Thompson High School this year. Which
and Juan Fagans is the other one who he's set to commit within the next week, which is exciting. So
that gives you 3 in 2 years with Caleb Harris. You're just sort of becoming sort of Thompson South.
Please.
Thompson University South. Time. Yeah,
That's right. All right. Is it time for Blake Woodby to finally come to Auburn? We've been talking about this guy for weeks. Is it Big Cat Weekend time for Woodby? It would be great. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Charlie 5, let me just ask you a very simple question. Can you imagine using any sportsbook other than our friends at FanDuel?
Absolutely not. Won't do it.
Nope. Lindsay and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but still Auburn listed at 7.5 wins. I think the positive momentum that it was generated last week at SEC Media Days, a lot of people saying 8-4 or better for the Tigers. The value is now at FanDuel. Strike while the iron's hot. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers, that includes you, with a boost or a bonus daily. So there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and, of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. Blake Woodby, former Ohio State corner commit, has been crystal balled to Auburn for a while. It sounds like Maryland made a big push. It's been forever. We kind of thought this would already happen. Is Big Cat Weekend the time for Blake Woodby, Charlie 5?
Yeah, you hope so. Here's my thing. I kind of go back to, I love the idea of hyping up Big Cat Weekend, and I'm mega positive, okay, especially about recruiting. But Blake Woodby should be a commit already. Let's just go ahead and say he should be already on the commit list. There were crystal balls came in for Auburn literally the day he decommitted or the day after he decommitted. And that was like back in May? It seemed like forever ago. It was a long, long time ago.
Well, and then his teammate committed. It's like, oh.
Yeah, and his teammate committed at a camp. Right. And it's like, okay, something about these timelines, man. I'm just like, if you got a kid in the boat, go ahead and get him to pop. Like Blake Woodby should be on the commit list. All you're doing is giving other like Oregon and Maryland, all these teams, I feel like more chances to sort of either postpone a commitment or maybe even get in there with him. Because sometimes there'll be some teams that'll sort of back off a little bit if a kid's committed, maybe not like fully, but they'll back down a little bit. So I'm hoping. I think he's got some tentative dates right around Big Cat Weekend too. He's going to be here. Wouldn't shock me at all if he's your Big Cat Weekend Saturday commitment. So I think it seems like any minute now he could pop. I think he should already be on the list though.
Yeah, and of course his high school teammate, probably college teammate eventually, Bryce Diaz, who is going to be a DB for the Tigers too, it appears. So. When you look at other guys that will be here this weekend, a lot of current commits. I mean, and you got to think that, Alvin Henderson and a lot of these guys, seems like Malik Autry has been very active as far as recruiting guys to help join this class. But who do you think these guys are going to be on the most? Is it a Chroma situation? Do they try to get another running back to kind of file suit? Who is it in your mind?
Well, I mean, you got to look at the headliners. I mean, Naeem Offord and Caleb Cunningham are going to be here. And you've heard the positivity that Hugh has, like the faith that he has that he's going to pull off Naeem Offord. He told people, hey, if you're going to write a story.
There's this quiet, or maybe it's not even quiet, but there is this confidence that Auburn's going to land Naeem Offord. And nobody's really writing about it or posting about it or doing anything about it. But I think Auburn really thinks they're going to get this guy.
I think they feel like they're going to be in it at the end. That maybe the Ohio State is not. Maybe it's not just he's totally locked in. And at the end of the day, when it really comes down, it's kind of like the Alvin Henderson situation. Ain't no child from Elba, Alabama going to Penn State. Maybe a kid from Birmingham. It might be hard to see them just maybe ending up at Ohio State or even Oregon. I think he's visited Oregon some too. So
yeah.
I think
Oregon just missed out on a really big corner for them, and so
that ups the urgency to try to get a kid like this. And Dan Lanning's a beast on the trail, and he loves kids from the Southeast. And
apparently has unlimited NIL thanks to Phil Knight.
It's kind of like Rocky. If you can just hang around there to the 15th round, you could hang around to the end. You might you got a puncher's chance to win, and Auburn's hanging in there. You get him here for Big Cat Weekend. You start off hot. If you start off hot this season, start off a 5-0 or something like that, and he get him here for a couple of games. I think you got just as good a shot as anybody to maybe flip him at the end.
What about a guy like Isaiah Gibson? Very talented edge, committed to Georgia currently, but you heard about him, then he committed to Georgia, and then he kind of faded away, but he's here this weekend. I think that says something.
Sure. I mean, again, anytime you can get somebody on campus, it's great. I think he was more of a realistic get had you gotten someone like Juju as your quarterback. And now that obviously that's up in the air and you're not really sure which direction you're going to go, maybe that's less of a realistic shot. I think he'll probably end up sticking with Georgia, but you never know. Again, you get him on campus, you may wow them. And with the right, it seems like heck with the right NIL package, you can pretty much get anybody. But I would put him in the extreme long shot category, even though he's one of the 5 stars that are going to be here, or is at least said he's going to be here this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a loaded list, and we'll talk about the 2026 class in a second, but it's a loaded list. But it is interesting. There's no reported quarterback visiting this weekend, which is a bit unusual, especially kind of following the Juju saga and how loud that has been over the last few months. Charlie 5.
Yeah, it's and if you're I can see where it could possibly be a little bit discouraging because you kind of feel like, hey, if I get a quarterback in, I got a better shot. You want to pair that guy up with a Caleb Cunningham, that's coming to visit, and Derek Smith, and say, hey, look, this is who you could possibly be throwing to, or hey, look, this is who is going to be throwing you passes. And Auburn seems to be somewhat snake bit in this class. I guess you still maybe have a shot to bring in a Deuce Knight or a KJ Lacey this weekend, but neither one of them have really committed one way or the other if that they're coming. And there could be a scenario where none of them, not one comes. So that's a little bit sometimes. At the end of the day, all that matters is who you get. So if you get one of these guys in the end, who cares? But it seems like up until this point, I don't want to say mismanaged isn't the right word, but it just like snake bit, I guess, is just unlucky. We just seem a little bit unlucky and maybe rode the juju train a little bit too long.
Yeah, maybe so. And then like other guys that they just missed out on, like Hassan Longstreet's, like if Hugh Freeze would have been here longer, would they have been in that? No, I think that would have gone a different way. They just kind of showed up a little late to some of these because quarterback recruitment seems like that's happening earlier and earlier. So I follow this stuff fairly closely, but every now and then there's just a name that I kind of have to lean on you. Sam Turner, the Georgia Tech commit, he's a wide receiver coming this weekend. Who is that? I haven't heard of him before.
Yeah. I mean, when you start sort of, when a Caleb Cunningham goes elsewhere, Derek Smith goes elsewhere, and you don't really have a ton of your options on the board. Hugh Freeze has a type. Okay. Hugh Freeze wants a big body receiver. He wants a 6'3" guy.
6'3", 190. Yeah.
And you look at Sam Turner, he's 6'3", 190. And he's committed to Georgia Tech. Got some pretty good film. I mean, I think he could be a good player in time. And he's from the Atlanta area. I think it's somebody you kind of have, it's good to have him here. You have him in the back burner. You think if you really need to flip somebody, if you need to add a wide receiver to this class, he seems like he'd probably be a pretty easy one to get. And I think he's got the potential to be a good player. Like I said, Hugh Freeze has a type, man, and this is one of his types that he likes.
Yeah. So absolutely loaded in the 2025 class. It's arguably even more loaded with 2026 guys that are coming this weekend.
It's crazy.
That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. When looking at the list of 2026 guys that are going to be in town for Big Cat Weekend, it's really tough to know where to start because it's like all of the top players in the state are going to be in Auburn on Saturday. I mean, I guess we'll start with the highest rated guy according to On3, Anthony Jones, Tank Jones. He's been a guy that we've been talking about for a hot minute. It seems like Auburn's in a really, really good spot for him. An edge from Mobile.
Always good to get a Mobile kid. If you can.
Question. And get as many edge rushers as you possibly can. It'll work itself out. I know Auburn's recruiting a bunch of them. Get them all. You can't have too many pass rushers.
Number 8 player in the whole country. So it's not just the number 1 player in Alabama. Please. The number 8 player in the whole country. Number 1 is in his position. Number 1 in the state. Very, very talented kid from St. Paul. Sort of they used to be a football factory, and it seems like maybe they're starting to get back into putting out some big time kids. He'd be, there was some smoke. He might be looking at possibly pulling the trigger in July. I think he's going to wait a little bit longer, but hey, you get him here and get him around all the excitement, get him around some other commits, and you maybe could take the lead here and sort of, I say maybe put yourself even further out in the lead. I think he's even had a few predictions, some crystal balls to Auburn from some of the 247 writers. So you never know. He's a stud. He would be unbelievable if you could get this kid. Very versatile, athletic kid.
Yeah. I mean, he's everything you want. 6'4", 230, lean as can be, long. It's everything you want in an edge rusher.
Yep.
And then there's those group of guys that we've been talking about for months that like could pop this weekend. I mean, we've talked about Hezekiah Harris. We've talked about Shadarius Tootle. We've talked about J. Mike Garrett. I mean, there's so many different guys that could potentially, add to this 2026 class that already has so much promise.
Number 1 through 8 in the state of Alabama, On3 industry rankings. are confirmed coming to Big Cat this weekend. Now, obviously, they still have to show up, but they've pledged they will be at Big Cat weekend. The number 1 through 8 players in the state are going to be in Auburn. Auburn has put such an emphasis on in-state and just your recruiting territories in general, but especially in-state. And I think to rebuild Auburn's, like, you just look at the example of Thompson. Like, there's so many examples that Thompson is just a microcosm of the failures that have been in the state of Alabama. And you can really repair some relationships if you start taking a bunch of Alabama kids. And then, you know what? You start getting the first phone call. Hey, I got a 9th grader. He's going to be unreal. I think you need to get eyes on him. Or, hey, I got a 10th grader. He hit a growth spurt over summer. He's going to be unreal. He's already in summer workouts. He's outrageous. You need to take a look at him. That's the kind of stuff. When you take in-state kids, when you start getting phone calls, and you can go drive and see this kid and be back in 2 hours. You know what I mean? Or right. It's not getting in a plane and going somewhere. You can make a day trip. That's huge. You can touch a lot of schools and touch a lot of people when you do stuff like that. And recruiting in state is massive. You can have, if you want to lean on California, good luck. Hopefully it works out for you. And hopefully they don't get homesick and want to go back home in the transfer portal. I think you got to win at home, and Auburn seems to be doing everything they can to win at home.
And all 8 of those guys, the top 8 that you're talking about, Auburn's legit in it for all 8 of them. Yeah, they may be the favorite for all 8 of them. If not, it's staying close.
If you put any stock into the RPM prediction model for On3, they're the leader for all 8 of the top 8 in the state of Alabama. So that takes predictions, it takes articles, it takes visits, and sort of has this algorithm to kind of project out a percentage of a lead. And Auburn leads with all of them, all 8, which is it's kind of crazy to think about.
It is crazy to think about. That is crazy. Like, what does that look like in a class if that all happens? And they're going to re-roll rankings and all that. They won't finish in the top 8, but still, the fact that you're in the conversation to this point, it's just, I mean, we've never had anything like that before.
You know why you can do that, Zach? You know why you can do that? It's because you have 16 2025 commits right now, and you're probably going to have close to 20 by the end of August. So you're not waiting until December to land your 21st commit or your 20th commit. You're that far ahead. Your class is almost done before football season. So then you can kind of focus on A, the season, and B, looking ahead and working on those 2026 guys. And we've already been working on them. And I think it's going to pay off, hopefully, over the weekend and maybe leading up to and a few days after. I hope we can add a few guys.
Yeah, and I'll try to get you on later in the week as we get closer because we may have more information. But you had to guess right now, how many commits are there this weekend?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so tell me when the start date is and when is the end date?
Sure. Noon on Friday.
Okay.
Through noon on Sunday.
Noon on Friday through noon on Sunday. I think you got 2 in each class, at least.
Really?
I think you have 2. Possibly 3 in 2025 and maybe 2 in the 2026 class.
That'd be outstanding.
And one of the 2026 class commits could come before that Friday noon, but I'm just going to stick to. I'm going to lump them in there, and I think I think you're going to have 2 in each. I think you're going to have at least 2 in each, possibly 3 in the 2025 class.
Is that counting? Fagans? He's the 29th. Is that right?
That'd be Sunday, or would that be Monday?
That'd be Monday.
Okay. Then definitely 2. Then let's just go with 2 then. I think 2 in each will be about what you're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's the 29th.
So that one will be, he'll be the 29th, which should be Auburn. And then you have Jared Smith on August 3rd. So I still think you got 2 that could pop there over the weekend for both classes. I think you could have 4 total commits over the weekend, which would be probably one of the bigger Big Cat weekend commitments, deals that we've ever had.
Yeah, it's big. That is big. No question about it. Charlie 5, how can people check out everything that you've got going on right now?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter, _Charlie_5 in the Locked On Auburn Discord, or you can find me every single day on the Top Button Podcast.
Yes.
I thought it's something.
Yep. Be sure to, to give him a follow. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. Check out all of our written work at auburndaily.com. We will see you later today for a little happy hour edition of the show. This has been Locked On Auburn.